so let's draw some butts. I'm going to do the thing I call the Tetris approach. So the Tetris approach is, well, I mean, if you've seen a Tetris block, the idea is to take the thing and to break it down into units. And this is like not proportional, right? I'm not paying attention to proportions. I'm paying attention to something called topology, Topology, topology. So this is a topological study. So that would be an example, like that's mind the gap. These are ways to visualize the topology of a pelvis. A simplified version, and it's not anatomy, it's figure drawing. I'm not worrying about drawing all the bones. I'm going to actually add an extra level to this, an extra tier. I guess it's like a double deck. So I'm just redrawing the same thing with an additional tier to it. All right, so you get the idea. And so if we were to bring this knee, we're going to bring this leg forward. So I'm going to bring the thigh forward. I'm going to draw the first level, the first tier of it. Actually, the nice thing is I can just keep scrolling things off screen because I'm doing this primarily for the exercise. I don't plan on keeping any of these drawings. So the first tier goes down like so. Now I'm going to bring one of the legs forward or one of the thighs forward. So this only is dealing with the thing in 90-degree increments. And then there's another piece that goes down like that. And I'm just bringing only one of the thighs forward, so let's just drop that straight down. All right, so the Tetris approach gives you a way to visualize what happens when you pull a leg forward or if we pull it to the side. So I'm going to just draw straight through. We'll get 1 division, 2 divisions. Drop that down. Let's say, yeah, we can pull that leg straight up to the side. It's a stepping stone, right? It's not the final form. But you have to understand the stepping stone first. All right, so we pull that leg out to the side, we get something like this. Okay, so just remember that. All right, so now I'm going to start rounding things off. Actually, let's just go straight down. So all right, so normally the Tetris block divisions, I'm going to just show something kind of like this. There's an inner plane in there. And the other thing is you can always add on a little bit to the side there. Let's bring that one leg forward. And another thing is that when you have something which comes out the other side, you got to look at this line and just be able to imagine, right? You got to work through. Now, you don't have to square everything off because legs don't generally have those square off. They don't often have like flat planes on them, not unless you're purposely accentuating them. If we see this from maybe a rear 3/4 perspective, I like to draw the scapula. Not the scapula. Duh. This is the sacrum, right? Well, you got there's this triangular shape on the back, so I like to draw the sacrum. It's a good landmark. And then again, there's the top plane, side plane. I'm just doing Tetris breakdowns of that knee joint. I guess there we go. And again, let's draw the same, starting with the same waistline. Get that sacrum or sacrum, I don't know, Latin. Actually, let's just make that leg go straight down. Right, so this is how you can deal with, like, when you have that Tetris breakdown, it tells you the topology, right, of what line goes in front of what. Right, like you start to learn, oh, okay, so this line here, this is the simplified. Right, there's an overlap line right here. That's just the center line. And you can, this is where you can start to do all the necessary subtle bumps and whatnot, right? This is when you start to apply anatomy. But then all these other lines here, right? These are just edges and they're not necessarily visible, right? Actually, they probably won't be visible. There's inner concave creases here, right? You don't have to draw them there. I just showing you that they are, if you were to draw them, that's where they would be. And then if I delete those lines, you can really see. Let's keep going. Anytime I get confused, I find it helps to draw an elliptical stump. You've probably seen some of the fine arts when you see like a statue. Sometimes you'll see like those abbreviated, amputated stumps. So we've come around to the other side. again, you can probably, hopefully you're starting to kind of notice all these like little planes. So knowing that little Tetris breakdown is like, it's really instrumental to being able to perform a minimal style where you're not drawing like everything, every single freaking line. And like minimal means I'm not drawing, lots of this internal stuff, right? I'm not drawing stuff that you wouldn't normally see in real life. Like to me, minimal just means giving people just enough information so that they can fill in the rest. And people like it, like if you maybe you can do that. But I think that being minimalistic, it's not being lazy, right? It's like it requires a lot of this, like it's like if you're doing math, arithmetic, and you have to do some of the calculations in your head, that's what you have to do. You have to be able to do the calculations in your head. But again, here's the simple breakdown. And you don't have to draw that bit, right? You don't have to draw that bit either. But they are there just to show you, like, this is my way of showing, show your work, right? Just showing you that I know what I'm doing. I'm not just pulling this stuff out of my ass or out of her ass. And that's the thing about the pelvis is I don't have an intimate knowledge of the pelvis bones or any of those things. I just have a good idea of the Tetris breakdown, and then I add in just a little bit of extra forms on it just to bulge it out and make it look proper. Now here's another thing, right? It's like this, if I draw that versus drawing something like this, right? These first two lines, those are the first two near lines. So they're the first two near lines of a quadrilateral. So if you look at a quadrilateral and it looks like this, right? If these are the two near lines, then it means I'm looking down upon this quadrilateral from above. Right. On the other hand, if I draw it like this, and these are the first two near lines, right? Because these are the far lines; those are in the back. If those are the first two near lines, then that means that I'm looking at something like this. I'm looking at the quadrilateral from below, and then these are the far lines. Right. This is an upwards look, an upskirt look, an underboob look. Right, or you can treat it like these are the two near lines here, and then there's another two near lines like this. Right, so these are ways. So when I draw those first two lines, like when I'm approaching if I'm dealing with this top edge here, right, I might be immediately thinking, right, if I do that, it means I'm coming at her from an upskirt shot. And I can start figuring out, okay, there's the sacrum. Again, near lines. And I can just box this down. Although, again, I don't say that you have to draw it as a box. Right? But that's how you handle the upskirt angle. And then as we wind up here, right, then those near lines are going to do that. They're going to do this, right? Because now we're looking up at this part here. We're looking down at this part. Because what happens is if we take a large, tall block, right, this is what happens. These are the near lines here. These are also near lines here. And everything in between right, it starts to flatten out. Then it inverts. And there's an inversion. Like that. So that's how you can handle looking up and looking down at things. And this whole thing can be turned sideways, right? So those could be the near lines. This is your halfway point. And again, there's an inversion. So it kind of flattens out. Like that. So this whole thing can be just, you can twist it around any way you want. So then I can in this case, I'm drawing like her thigh. And I can draw like we're seeing the top plane here, but again, I typically wouldn't draw that line, but I'm just drawing it so that you can see more of what's going on in my head. And then we're going to go straight to the Tetris block. I'm going to draw this as a Tetris block just so you can the modified Tetris block. Isometric perspective. So if this is the optimization, except you wouldn't normally chop off the torso there, like not when you're drawing a complete form, but this is the optimization. There it is. And then in thinner lines, I'll show you the edges. So once you know that, then draw the sacrum. So there it is. That's the Tetris block optimization. And these are the inner edge lines, which you would omit for the minimalistic look.